Hello everyone, this is International Master Robert Jamieson from Kids Unlimited in Melbourne, Australia. A week or two ago we had the Gold Coast Open, which also served as the Australian Championship, with the highest finishing Australian becoming our new national champion. So I was following the games online, and today I thought I'd show you 5 or 6 interesting positions from the tournament. We all love a good swindle or a good attacking move comes out of the blue. So I've chosen a few to show you. Let's get started with the first one. So here we are. We're in a Rook and Pawn endgame. Lillian Liu, the Australian Girls Champion, is playing black, and it's her move. Now, what are we trying to do to draw a Rook and Pawn endgame? Well, it's pretty obvious. First thing is we want our king somewhere in front of the passed pawn, and we want our rook at a distance. So rooks operate best from a distance. So rook over here somewhere, or behind the pawn, somewhere around here, would be great. All right, so Lillian's sitting there thinking, what shall she do? Shall she push her king to g7 in front of the pawn? Shall she move her rook to a6? Shall she move her rook to g1? All right, pause the video and make your choice. Which would you play? Okay, well, Lillian, alas, chose the worst of the three, king g7. Can you see the problem with it? Yes, her opponent immediately played rook g5, and this forces the king and pawn endgame. Whether we take now or move our king doesn't make any difference. Takes, takes. White has the opposition. Easy one, king and pawn endgame. So, small moment of inattention cost Lillian half a point. Right, let's move on to the next one. Now, this one we have Shran Renjith, who's a very strong and promising Queensland junior, aged about 14. I think he's already an FM. Anyway, he's queen for rook up. So he's trying to beat Gareth Charles. And Charles, you'd say, would have some chances because there's no passed pawn. Maybe he can set up a blockade and white can't get in. All right, so pretend you're Shravan playing white. Can you find a way to win fairly quickly? Pause the video. What is your next move? Okay, hope you've decided. So Shravan came up with the cute idea of f6 check. Now, what happens if rook takes f6? We play queen e5, zugzwang. Black has no move. He's going to lose a rook in a short space of time. So he went sideways, and there's no way to stop. Queen takes f7, and it's a disaster, so he resigned. So that was a cute little tactic from Shravan. Moving on to the next one. All right. This was Daniel Poborovsky, a former student of mine, gone up to Queensland to have a go in the tournament, and he's going pretty well here. He's playing black. He has an extra supported passed pawn, and it's his move. So clearly he's trying to win. So pause the video and choose what move you play for Daniel trying to win as black. Okay. He basically has two choices. He can play e4 to lure the king away and capture that white passed pawn, or he can go backwards somewhere with his king. He should have gone somewhere backwards with his king. So, for instance, say white goes here, we go here, he goes back again, and we've triangulated so as we gain the opposition, and now it's going to be terrible, and we can lure the king away now, and it's just easy win. But Daniel thought, no, I'm going to do it simplest way, just move the pawn. Let's see what happened. Takes, takes, here, here, king up, king back. And now the annoying move, h6. The race is on. But alas, white makes it into the corner and it's a draw. So poor Daniel made the wrong choice, cost himself a point. Moving on. All right. Now, this was interesting. This was the top seed and the defending champion, Timur Kubrakarov. And he's a pawn up in a rook and pawn endgame against Y Liu. Okay, so Y plays rook e1 check, king back, rook back to f1, Timur goes back. So in effect, he's probably saying rook e1 check, let's repeat position, have a draw. So does Y take the draw? He decided to be brave. Rook f7, check, king back, rook across, rook takes, king up. Looks pretty interesting. Can the black king gobble white's pawns on the king side and keep his rook behind white's passed pawn? Maybe he can get a win. So white has several options here. He chose h3. So just pause the video for a second and tell me what move you'd play as black. Can you find a move to somehow grind out a win perhaps? Or do you take the draw? Black to play. What would you do? Okay, well, there's a couple of good options. Rook takes pawn isn't bad. d3 isn't bad. Timur chose rook takes this pawn. But alas, it was a disastrous choice. And Y has a move which will now win the game. Pause the video if you haven't already seen it. What is Y's winning move? So clearly he wants to win the game by queening his passed a pawn. The problem is black's rook gets behind it. So we solve that problem by sacrificing the a pawn. Now, if pawn takes pawn, for instance, we can just go rook check, and you can't stop our pawn. So Timur tried hard to get some play, but he's now faced with two passed pawns, and he was forced to resign. I think that was his only loss for the tournament, and he still ended up retaining his title. So it wasn't a total disaster, but a clever swindle from Yai. All right, let's move on. Now, this one is a doozy. I don't know whether you know much about International Master Stephen Solomon, an old IM from Queensland, but he loves endgames, and he's renowned for grinding down his opponents in endgames, even if he starts at a disadvantage. There was one game at the end of the tournament, I think he was playing Brodie McClimate, and he was a pawn down in a rook and bishops of opposite colour endgame, and he still ended up winning. I don't know how he does it. Anyway, here he's playing poor Samuel Greig. Now, Stephen has an extra pawn, and his plan is to try and queen that pawn. So generally, there's two plans to stop it, depending on where you want to place your king. So option one, you put your king near the passed pawn, as Samuel has done here, and that gives you options to perhaps check the white king a bit more and box him in. Option two, you hide your king miles away from the passed pawn. So say, for instance, if your king was here and let's say you checked him, he could interpose and he checks your king if it's in the wrong spot. It forces a queen swap. So you want your king sort of hiding over here somewhere so there can't be any interpositions. Anyway, black's king is in check. They had about 30 moves just running around in circles, checking each other. King goes here. Stephen gives him another check. King goes back. Stephen gives him another check. Queen back. Now, oh, are they repeating position? Has Stephen decided he cannot win and it's going to be a draw? Samuel's getting his hopes up. All right, so there's Stephen. If he goes back, it's going to be a repeating position, triple repetition draw. What can he do? Pause the video. See if you can decide what you would do if you were white. Okay, I hope you found it. Stephen could have done this move a couple of moves ago when he was repeating position, but he didn't. Maybe just wanted to torture his opponent. he plays the fabulous move, Queen E5 check. And poor old black suddenly realised he must resign, because after queen takes queen, pawn equals queen check, and we're picking up black's queen. So Stephen managed to win another endgame. Good work. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed those little positions from the Gold Coast Open. It's always nice to see a good swindle or a good missed opportunity. So hopefully you can keep an eye out for them in your own games and produce some similar brilliancies. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.